when the FBI discovered the body of Colombo captain Dominick Scialo buried in the basement of a Brooklyn social club. They also found the remains of another individual from a previous mob hit, whose hands and feet had been cut off. Let's check it out. Welcome to OC Shorts, bringing you detailed historical snapshots of the American Mafia and other organised crime. Feel free to subscribe if you like that sort of thing. Today, we're going to take a quick look at the mysterious body found buried in the same location as Colombo crime family captain Dominick Scialo. Feared Colombo crime family captain Dominick Scialo disappeared in January 1974. It is often stated that Mimi was murdered because he drunkenly insulted powerful mob boss Carlo Gambino right to his face. However, it is probably more accurate to say that Dominick Scialo was killed for numerous transgressions, including the unauthorized shooting of Colombo soldier Larry Lampazzi. As I have covered in a previous video, the link to this is in the comments below. Longtime FBI informant Greg Scarpa also indicated that Mimi was killed for several reasons, as seen in the following FBI file. On January 31 and February 6, 1974, Source was contacted regarding the recent turmoil and possible new developments in the Colombo family with regards to leadership changes. Source stated that Mimi Scialo was definitely killed on a contract given by Harry Fontana, and the okay was given by Carmine Persico. Details were furnished in a prior contact with Source reported earlier. Informant commented that the Lampazzi incident was merely the straw which broke the camel's back. That other families, notably Carlo Gambino and Funzi Thierry, had complained about Scialo's attitude and past activities also. Several months later, the FBI, working on information usually credited to Greg Scarpa, then searched the basement of Ottos Social and Athletic Club on President Street. Buried in the basement was the remains of Mimi Scialo, but his corpse was not alone. There was another body buried in the same location. As reported in the following newspaper article, FBI agents and police questioned scores of mafia hoods yesterday in an effort to find the slayers of mob boss Dominick Scialo and another unidentified victim, whose bodies were found buried in the basement of a South Brooklyn social club. Both had been shot in the back of the head in gangland execution style, police said. The victims were discovered late Wednesday night by FBI agents, acting on a tip that the body of Scialo, a Joseph Colombo Mafia family captain, was buried in the cellar of Ottos Social and Athletic Club, 494 President Street. The club is a hangout for Colombo Mobsters, according to cops. The article then goes on to discuss the state of the other corpse that was found near Scialo's. Agents, continuing to dig after finding Scialo's body, uncovered the second victim, the skeleton of a male with 2 bullet holes in the skull. The hands and feet had been hacked from the body. Police hope to identify the victim through dental casts made in the Kings County morgue. So, who was this other body found in the same mafia burial location as Colombo captain Dominick Scialo? Several weeks after the discovery of the body of Mimi Scialo alongside the unidentified corpse, Colombo family mobster and longtime FBI informant Greg Scarpa provided the FBI with what he knew about the mystery body. On October 31, 1974, Source advised regarding the body found buried alongside Dominick Scialo last month by the FBI that he heard the following story from very reliable sources. The individual murdered was named, first name unknown, Cutolo, a kid who was murdered about 10 years ago at the request of Junior Persico to Joe Colombo, who ordered the hit. Source heard that Cutolo apparently had killed a relative of Persico in a bar fight. So, from what we see in the FBI file, The unidentified body was known by the name Ciccio, but Scarpa didn't know his first name. The murder had occurred in around 1964 at the request of Colombo Mobster Carmine Persico and authorised by Joe Colombo. In 1964, Carmine Jr. Persico had been promoted to the position of captain in the family by new boss Joe Colombo. We can potentially determine that the murder of Ciccio had to have occurred after April 1964, as this was when Scarpa reported that in early April a ceremony was held installing Joe Colombo as the new boss of the family. An FBI file states, on 4/7/64, informant advised that on Sunday 4/5/64, a ceremony was held installing Joe Colombo as boss and Charlie Lemons as underboss of the Magliocco family. Informant stated this ceremony reportedly attended by representatives of 7 families plus captains from Magliocco family. Informant unaware of location where ceremony held or identity of families represented, with the exception of family from Detroit. Although it should be noted that Joe Colombo was the de facto boss of the family for a period before April 1964, following the forced retirement of Joseph Magliocco. Anyway, back to the Ciccio murder. Scarpa would continue to tell the FBI, Ciccio was grabbed off the street in Bay Ridge by Nick Bianco and Gregory Scarpa, who administered a severe beating to Ciccio. Greg Scarpa stating that he, alongside Nick Bianco, kidnapped Ciccio and delivered a savage beating. Nick Bianco was a mobster who had connections with the New England Patriarcha crime family and had previously been affiliated with the Brooklyn Gallo crew. Nick Bianco would become a made man in the Patriarcha crime family and then, after a special request by Joe Colombo, be transferred to the Colombo family. Years later, he would eventually transfer back to New England and become a powerful figure in the Patriarcha crime family. Scarpa would then advise the FBI of what happened to Ciccio after he and Nick Bianco had grabbed him. The FBI file states, Ciccio was then taken to the garage adjacent to Joe Iannaci's residence on Bay 10th Street, Brooklyn, where source heard he was killed by Duke Santoro with 1 bullet in the head. The Joe Iannaci mentioned was Joseph Joe Notch Iannaci, father of future Colombo mobster Frankie Notch Iannaci. At the time of the Ciccio murder, Joe Iannaci was a Colombo family associate, and according to the excellent site LCN Bios, Joseph Joe Notch Iannaci would be inducted into the Colombo crime family in April 1981 at the age of 50. He would go on to serve in the crew of William Wild Bill Cutolo. Greg Scarpa states that the man who actually pulled the trigger on Ciccio was a mobster called Duke Santoro. Duke Santoro was Colombo family soldier Modesto Duke Santoro. He was in his early 50s in 1964, and allegedly, Santoro was one of a selection of Colombo soldiers who reported directly to family boss Joe Colombo. The FBI file continues. The body was put back in Bianco's car and delivered to Persico's crew downtown, who in turn apparently buried the body in the basement of the social club. So, as we can see, Ciccio was murdered at another location, on Bay 10th Street, and then his body was driven to Ottos Social Club on President Street, where it was buried by Carmine Persico's crew in the basement. At this time, I am yet to identify who exactly the mysterious Ciccio was. But I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching.